The date was November 30, 2023. I was walking to a friend's house that I met while bartending, and I was about to try my first DMT experience ever. It is with me, I was already on a path, on a psychedelic path, and already have done mushrooms, plenty, and already I was, on an acid trip long time. And I was using them as medicines for my, phobias, my PTSD mainly. And actually, if I haven't done psychedelics at all, I don't think I would be able to sustain myself financially, because I would not be able to work in restaurants, which was my main, money-making situation where I, sustain myself financially. It was because I work in restaurants, and because psychedelics helped me be there, because otherwise I wouldn't be there. So I met this guy at work. He was a server, I was bartending, and we kind of hit it off on the psychedelic talk, and we kind of start mentioning mushrooms, throwing around LSD stories. And he was very forward to mention that not only he did smoke DMT, but he could manufacture it. Even more interesting is that this guy, he was almost like a shaman figure, like he was just into esoteric wisdom. And it's very rare to meet these people, especially nowadays, like a lot of people are just drifted into the matrix kind of, TikTok generation. And it's actually the first generation that is dumber than the parents, right? There's no young kid today that would be like smart than their parents ever were. Whatever, this is another talk for another video, but we hit it off immediately, and I started thinking like this might be my answer to DMT, because I was praying for the opportunity, but they never really show up, because DMT is a very serious subject also, and you got to do your own research and know that the source you're getting from is good. So I went to his house, he invited me, and it's very nice. He has a huge backyard, and we have a fire. It's a little cold because it's November, but this is Florida. It's not that cold, but it was a very cool night. And we sat down around the fire, we had some food, and we talking, we vibing, and then he brings the DMT out in a pipe. And that's when I first, went through the realm of the cosmos, let's say. Now, my first thing was like he did a few rituals with me, he made me inhale tobacco, to open up my pores, let's say. And then I went and I lay down on a hammock, and that's when it's very important to know someone who has done it before, because this guy, he really been through the ringer, and he done ayahuasca, done a lot of psychedelics and drugs, and now he was a DMT kind of man. And we lay down in a hammock, he comes on with the pipe, and he is the one, because if you're doing DMT, you're not gonna break through if you don't have someone pushing you with the pipe, like do one more hit, because that's when, because you think you're having enough, because you have afraid, like, oh my god, it's unexplainable how the feeling of when you smoke the DMT and you break through the realm is for someone who never even tried it, So I'm not gonna dwell on that, but it's very it's an ego death where you have to let go and understand that what's coming is actually just your own self, higher self, breaking through, right? Anyway, there is me and another individual who I used to bartend with, and we went, and I had a very positive experience. I saw a huge being coming through and just guiding me. I was looking at the moon. Anyway, it was very enlightening. So we keep talking at work, and long enough we start talking about open up a church, because that was his idea. He wanted to do a psychedelic church, that's his main ambition, to open up a church. And you're gonna see with the time I tell the story, this is kind of the holy man syndrome that happens in everybody when they do psychedelics. You think you evolve, you think now you have a great deal of understanding about society, and because the other people haven't done the work, you're kind of good, you're kind of ahead of them, which is interesting. I have a joke in my stand-up comedy where I go what's interesting when you have an ego death, when you do mushrooms and all these kind of things, is because you go yeah, now that I have an ego death, I'm better than everybody, right? So that was my main thing back then with this guy. We're thinking like, yeah, let's go ahead. And he really knew about the law, how to create a church. And it's very interesting because you think a church needs like foundations and shit. A church doesn't need anything, you know, you just need rituals to put the church in place. If you have meetings weekly, if you're doing, you know, I think you have to have some homework and stuff like that, and preach a situation where people gather and they come through. So you're gonna have a church. It's literally that's it. You know, you don't have papers, you don't have anything. It's just a functioning, you know, group that is called a church. So this friendship lasted for around 6 months. It was interesting because I got a roommate at the time that we were into psychedelics, and we start sharing, and he done DMT before, and I brought him to the meetings, and then all of a sudden between it was just me and 2 guys, right? All of a sudden we having 8, 10, 12 people weekly meetings, and I was doing DMT for 6 months straight, every month. And of course, because I was, you know, one of the creators of the church, you give me more extra. I would bring it home, I would smoke at home, and had what we call breakthroughs. When you see these beings coming out of nowhere and they help you and enlighten you. It's very mind melting when you do these things. I have a video about that explains, and I publish, I guess, on Instagram. I might publish here too, but you know, you're gonna understand about yourself, but also you need to know what you're doing when you're doing these things, you know. Of course, I have a lot of guidance through Terence McKenna, to Aldous Huxley. I read all the books, and I want to know more about these things when I was doing mushrooms and when I was doing LSD. If you watch my previous video about mushrooms and LSD, I mentioned that I want to see the colors. That was basically my main thing when I was doing LSD. And the vision I had only happened when I did DMT. All that, you know, colorful Super Mario getting sunk through the pipe thing happens on you are on DMT. And you know what's weird when we did DMT, man, is that everybody, especially like when I was doing DMT, let's say for 3 months, and I was more experienced, right? And we had these people coming in to do the first time, and we come down to the same conclusion, which was, when we break through, when you do the last hit, that you go through the cosmos, you know, your mind gets shots into this. The cosmos is the best explanation I can give you. Everybody, because what we see is like mandalas, shapes, you know, the universe creation, you're on the stars, something like that, and then there's like beings and shit. The best creation, or the best description everybody gave was like, I felt as if I've been there before. That was literally like everybody, you know. And when you see the mandalas, when you do mushrooms and you do LSD and you see those things, it's like, oh, I saw, like, we would communicate with each other. It's like, oh, I saw this on my meditation. You know, actually, I have a yoga teacher that showed me that specific pattern that came up on my trip. So you actually just accessing things that are like not accessible in a normal state of consciousness. You know what I mean? And you need to know how to interpret them, because you can get lost and not know what reality is anymore. For example, my first major breakthrough was one night when I did like a lot, and I really like felt comfortable to let go and go into the pipe, let's say. You get stuck into it. So this is what happens, right? I'm hitting the pipe and I'm already feeling like, you start feeling the euphoria, you start feeling the adrenaline, and like, one thing that's interesting is like cracks start happening in front of you. Like, it's like this reality is no longer here. And then you start seeing colors, it's getting stronger. And I saw this red lady. There was a lady dressed in red. I don't remember her face. I don't remember like specifically, but I remember the red dress. And she was looking at me. And she was like, all right, now I feel you ready. And then she did this. Are you ready once? Are you ready twice? Are you ready? Once she did the third, like she was sweeping with the dress, like kind of dancing. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? She did the third. Boom. I went full mode to the cosmos, let's say, you know. Because I was somewhere seeing colors. I was like surfing something. I don't know how to explain to you. But it was a reality that was real in the moment, you know. And I felt like very bliss, very alive. This is life. Preserve the light. You know, that was the main message of the trip. Of course, I had like trips when I die and I felt like, oh my God, I'm here and I'm stuck. I don't know my name. I don't know who I am. It was a white room. There was all that happens when you do these things, you know, for a while. So at the end of the main days when I would feel like this was some work, man, I would feel like kind of like shock and at the same time enlightenment, you know. So that both things that comes when you do these things, and you gotta know how to interpret them. So we did almost created a church. We got together a few times, but it didn't happen. You know, one very interesting thing that happened with the group that we were gathering around, all of a sudden everybody dissipated. You know, I quit my job at the bar, and even before that, we kind of like were not hitting off. I don't know, like we kind of lost, you know, the connection, and they start going pursuing other things, you know. And I'm a very lonely guy. I need like solitude, so I kind of just, you know, turn off the church talk and start my own journey, which now is comedy. I already had a book published at the time, and I was like, one thing that is very interesting when you do psychedelics and you walk with these people is like a lot of them are just escaping, you know. A lot of them are doing psychedelics because psychedelics makes them feel alive, and it gives them, you know, answer to mundane things. You know, you don't want to feel the mundane anymore when you do psychedelics. That's one thing. When I was doing a lot of LSD back in the day, I was like, I cannot like do normal things anymore. Like I cannot go to DMV and have my fucking driver license renewed because I'm gonna die if I get there, because the environment and all that. You know, you become a being that just wanna, you know, worship things, beautiful things. That's not like very productive to be in society. That's why you kind of retreat, you know. But anyway, that's my experience and how I almost opened up a church, man. We even had the name, the Far and Beyond Church, but it didn't came through. But you know, it was one of the nicest experience I had, and those people are now in the past, and it's just enlightenment, you know. So what is your experience? Have you ever done DMT? You know, tell me your psychedelic background so we can talk. And subscribe to the channel, man. 99% of the people here are not subscribed. I'm not a huge channel. You know, background noise in YouTube right now, but that's what we're doing here. We want to talk about the experience and gather, because these things, man, people need to be like, I know people who understand about DMT, understand about mushrooms. They're all scattered. You know, it's very rare to meet people with the consciousness that you need to have to talk about these things productively around you, because this is a very thin scope of reality that people get to experience. All right, so nice staying with you, man. Thank you for being here on the channel, and let's keep it up. That was it for today.